This is a historical summary of Turkey from 1914 to 2025 by AI. The fall of the Ottoman Empire and the War of Independence from 1914 to 1923. At the start of World War I, the Ottoman Empire, then in a prolonged state of decline, sided with the Central Powers. The empire's military and administrative weaknesses were laid bare during the war, and its defeat in 1918 led to severe consequences. Under the Treaty of Sevres 1920, the Allied powers proposed partitioning much of Ottoman territory, allowing Greece, France, Britain, and Italy to occupy Anatolian lands. The harsh terms of the treaty provoked a nationalist backlash led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. From 1919 to 1922, Ataturk led the Turkish War of Independence against occupying Greek, French, and British forces. The Turkish victory culminated in the Treaty of Lausanne, 1923, which recognized the boundaries of modern Turkey and abrogated the Treaty of Sevres. That same year, the Republic of Turkey was formally proclaimed, with Ankara as its capital and Ataturk as its first president. Kemalist reforms and the Republican era, from 1922 to 1938. Ataturk initiated a sweeping program of modernization and secularization. These included the abolition of the caliphate, the introduction of Latin script, women's suffrage, secular education, and the reform of civil and criminal codes. The aim was to forge a homogeneous, secular Turkish identity rooted in Western-style nationalism, breaking with the Ottoman and Islamic past. Political power was consolidated under the Republican People's Party, or the CHP, creating a single-party state. While Ataturk is widely credited with modernizing Turkey, his rule was authoritarian and political dissent was often repressed. World War II and the Cold War, from 1939 to 1960. Turkey remained neutral for most of World War II, only declaring war on Germany in 1945 to join the newly forming United Nations. As the Cold War began, Turkey's strategic location made it a key ally of the West. In 1952, Turkey joined NATO, aligning itself firmly with the US and Europe against Soviet influence. Democratic multi-party politics were introduced in 1946. In 1950, the Democratic Party, led by Adnan Menderes, won a landmark election, ending CHP's monopoly. Menderes initially promoted liberalization, but became increasingly authoritarian. In 1960, a military coup deposed Menderes, reflecting the Turkish military's emerging role as the guardian of secularism and national stability. Cycles of coups and democratization from 1960 to 1980. The next 2 decades were marked by political instability, economic difficulties, and social unrest. New political parties emerged, such as Süleyman Demirel's Justice Party and Bülent's CHP faction. Ideological conflict between leftist and rightist groups escalated into street violence. The military intervened again in 1971 through a coup by memorandum, forcing government resignation without dissolving parliament. In 1980, facing a collapsing state apparatus and widespread violence, the military launched another coup, suspending democracy, banning political parties, and rewriting the constitution. Economic liberalization and the rise of Islamicism. From 1980 to 2002. Under military rule, Özel rose to prominence. After democracy was restored in 1983, he became prime minister and then president, implementing neoliberal reforms, opening Turkey to global markets, and reducing state control of the economy. However, Özel's reforms also increased income inequality and regional disparities. At the same time, Islamic political movements gained strength, challenging the secular status quo. The Welfare Party the Refah Partisi, led by Necmettin Erbakan, became the largest party in 1995. In 1997, the military forced Erbakan to resign in what was called a postmodern coup, reasserting secularist dominance. The AKP era and the transformation under Erdogan from 2002 to 2023. In 2002, the newly formed Justice and Development Party, the AKP, a moderate offshoot of Islamist politics, won a landslide victory. Under Erdogan, first as Prime Minister, 2003 to 2014, and then as President from 2014 to present, Turkey experienced a dramatic transformation. Initially, Erdogan emphasized economic growth, EU ascension, and civil-military balance, curbing the army's political power. The economy boomed in the 2000s, and Turkey was hailed as a model for Muslim democracy. However, over time, Erdogan consolidated power, weakened judicial independence, and curtailed press freedom. In 2013, mass protests over plans to redevelop Gezi Park turned into a broader intergovernment movement. The government responded with heavy police force. A major turning point came in July 2016 when a failed coup attempt by factions in the military, allegedly linked to cleric Gulen, led to a massive crackdown. Over 100,000 people were purged from public service, and many institutions were shuttered. In 2017, Erdogan pushed through a constitutional referendum, creating a powerful executive presidency, which he assumed in 2018. The AKP's earlier democratic image gave way to an increasingly authoritarian style of governance. Turkey's relations with the West worsened due to human rights concerns, although Erdogan maintained strong ties with Russia, China, and the Gulf states. Domestic challenges and shifting geopolitics from 2018 to 2023. From 2018 onward, Turkey has faced economic crises with the lira plunging its value due to unorthodox monetary policies and political instability. Inflation soared and unemployment rose sharply. Erdogan's insistence on low interest rates contributed to further economic strain. Meanwhile, Turkey adopted an assertive foreign policy. It intervened militarily in Syria, Libya, and Nagorno-Karabakh, increased tensions in the eastern Mediterranean with Greece and Cyprus, and maintained a complex relationship with NATO. Ankara's growing ties with Russia, including purchasing the S-400 missile system, strained its alliance with the United States. Elections and political change from 2023 to 2025. The 2023 elections were among the most contested in Turkish history. Despite economic hardship and growing public dissatisfaction, Erdogan narrowly won re-election amid claims of an uneven playing field and media bias. However, the opposition, especially the Nation Alliance led by Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, I can't pronounce that name, gained significant ground, winning control of major municipalities like Istanbul and Ankara. Turkey's political landscape in the early 2020s was marked by rising polarization, growing generational divides, and public frustration over corruption and the cost of living. Nevertheless, Erdogan maintained support among conservative and nationalist voters. By 2025, Turkey remains a deeply divided society. On the one hand, it is a dynamic, youthful country with a rich cultural heritage, strong industrial base, and key geopolitical position. On the other, it faces mounting internal economic uncertainty, political repression, Kurdish tensions, and stalled EU aspirations. Yet, despite its challenges, Turkey continues to assert itself as a regional power in the Middle East, the Caucasus, and the Eastern Mediterranean, balancing between East and West while charting its own path into the second century of its republic.